Yeah, welcome to the DOJO, baby, man. Have no fear, TyKwonDoe is here, man. Look, we back at it with the art of seduction. Now, this is your first time watching, welcome to the dojo. If it's not, if you've been following the series episode by episode, you already know we're pretty deep into the book. Haven't read it in a while, haven't continued in a while, but I'm bringing y'all here for a special reason today. There's a part of the book I want to skip to, which is, wrong page, the anti-seducer. Now, without speaking on the reasons why I didn't, continue to read it and pick up where we were consistently, I wanted to skip to this chapter specifically because I know it would be interesting to look at the flip side. Yeah, you hear about tips, do this, do that, try this and try that, say this and be that. But do you know what you're doing wrong? Do you know how it is you're moving, thinking, acting, and speaking that is fucking your game up, to be real? That is ruining your seduction, that is killing your whole game. So this part of the book clearly piqued my interest and clearly piqued my curiosity for an obvious reason, as we obviously said, and we're going to continue to spam the word obvious. But let's get into the book, chat. The anti-seducer. Seducers draw you in by the focused, individualized attention they pay to you. Anti-seducers are the opposite. Insecure, self-absorbed, and unable to grasp the psychology of another person. They literally repel. Anti-seducers have no self-awareness and never realize when they are pestering, imposing, talking too much. They lack the subtlety to create the promise of pleasure that seduction requires. Root out anti-seductive qualities in yourself and recognize them in others. There is no pleasure or profit in dealing with the anti-seducer. Now, from everything that I've read so far, because y'all know this is not just me reading along and just agreeing with everything that is said, because I consider myself an expert in seduction, as TyKwonDoe, the sensei of seduction. That's one of my strongest qualities in me as a man and my relationship with people in general. As I say, a man can have multiple traits to himself, or a woman as well, or any individual. You got seduction, charisma, charm, and I forget the other qualities and aspects I talk about, but these are the main ones used all together. And seduction is a one that I've had a personal relationship of my own. A lot of my experience, a lot of my life is spent around building these qualities. And outside of things like, charisma, charm, chat, what other qualities have we mentioned before in relation to each other? Seduction has been the one that I have had a special relationship with, a special inclination to learn, do, be, and live like. And then the irony is that I've never read this book in my life. For content is what made me read it, but now it brings me to this, the anti-seducer. Everything I've been reading so far sounds right. Next page though. Alright, listen, chat. Whatever the anti-seducer does, do the opposite. No. Don't. See, listen. You have to. Somebody in chat just said, I'm about to turn the chat off and just focus. Somebody just said in chat, I just want to let y'all then just know whatever the anti-seducer does, do the opposite. It's not necessarily true. Doesn't mean the opposite is correct. Alright, let's go. Let's read, chat. The typology of the anti-seducers. Anti-seducers come in many shapes and kinds, but almost all of them share a single attribute. The source of their repellence, insecurity. I would 100% agree. Because if you're insecure, you're preventing so many ways of your personality. You're preventing yourself from being able to allow yourself to look at another person because you're too worried about yourself. You're thinking about yourself. You think everybody is worried about you. You are in the lower forms of energy, fear, shame, guilt, insecurity, all that. You will never get to the higher levels of energy and state of being which will allow you to be truly, effectively seductive. We are all insecure and we suffer for it. Yet we are able to surmount these feelings at times. A seductive engagement can bring us out of our usual self-absorption, and to the degree that we seduce or are seduced. We feel charged and confident. Anti-seducers, however, are insecure to such a degree that they cannot be drawn into the seductive process. Their needs, their anxieties, their self-consciousness close them off. They interpret the slightest ambiguity on your part as a slight to their ego. They see, so what I would take from that last statement in particular is the ambiguity, where I may see it as teasing, a potential to be taken in another direction, or whatever. They may see it as, is this person dissing me? Are they trying to attack me? What does that mean? And you know, we've all know what insecure thoughts feel like and sound like. When you're insecure, you really create a lot of narratives in your head. You just be making stuff up. What are they thinking? Are they worried about me? Are they staring at my nose? Are they focusing on my head? Can they see that? These are all thoughts that take you away from your potential to be seductive. Let's continue though. They interpret the slightest ambiguity. They see the merest hint of withdrawal as a betrayal, and are likely to complain bitterly about it. It seems easy. Anti-seducers repel, so be repelled or avoid them. Unfortunately, however, many anti-seducers cannot be detected as such at first glance. They are more subtle, and unless you are careful, they will ensnare you in a most unsatisfying relationship. You must look for clues to their self-involvement and insecurity. Perhaps they are ungenerous, or they argue with unusual tenacity, or are excessively judgmental. Perhaps they lavish you with undeserved praise, declaring their love before knowing anything about you. You know what the funny part is? Guess where they will be most successful people? People who are insecure, people who love this type of behavior. So, in a sense, they connect, but just in another way. Or, most important, they pay no attention to details. Since they cannot see what makes you different, they cannot surprise you with nuanced attention. It is critical to recognize anti-seductive qualities not only in others, but also in ourselves. Almost all of us have one or two of the anti-seducer's qualities latent in our character. And to the extent that we can consciously root them out, we become more seductive. A lack of generosity, for instance, need not signal an anti-seducer if it is a person's only fault. But ungenerous person is seldom truly attractive. Seduction implies opening yourself up, vulnerability, even if only for the purpose of deception. Being unable to give by spending money usually means being unable to give in general. Stamp ungenerosity out, it is an impediment to power and a gross sin in seduction. I like that. It is best to disengage from anti-seducers early on before they sink their needy tentacles into you. So learn to read the signs. These are the main types. And we get to the next page. Y'all ready, chat? We about to get deep. The brute. If seduction, let me make sure the page is sized up properly. Okay, you can't really see the top of the word at the top sentence, but that's fine. The brute. If seduction is a kind of ceremony or ritual, part of the pleasure is its duration, the time it takes, the waiting that increases anticipation. Brutes have no patience for such things. They are concerned only with thinking of the other person. They are concerned only with their own pleasure, never with yours. To be patient is to show that you are thinking of the other person, which never fails to impress. Impatience has the opposite effect. Assuming you are so interested in them you have no reason to wait, brutes offend you with their egotism. Underneath that egotism too, there's often a gnawing sense of inferiority. And if you spurn them or make them wait, they overreact. If you suspect you are dealing with a brute, do a test, make that person wait. His or her response will tell you everything you need to know. And here's where a lot of women test y'all and y'all fail and y'all get exposed. But for the right reasons. That's what tests are for. If you get tested and you perform as you are and you show them who you truly are, then it's not a test. That all you are doing is showing them who you are. which shouldn't it really be anything special, but being who you already are. It shouldn't be above and beyond for you to be tested. And in fact, the idea of a test shouldn't cause you an anxiety, shouldn't cause you to be worried or thinking about the test, because it was never about the test. It was the fact that, and in fact, I like it when women test me. I like it when a woman has tests, because it shows that she knows how to filter the weak men, filter the posers, the imposters, the fakes, the cappers, the men that are all talk. So a test doesn't worry a man who is truly sure of himself and has a lot of confidence. And the real comment I want to make on the brute chat is the idea of impatience. True seducers have patience on their side because they know it's a matter of when, not how or what, but a matter of when. That's the true difference that is different in each individual that a person seduces. It is a matter of when. The when is the most important, because when you're looking at the when, you can see different hows. You can see that she might, if we're just focusing on sex, she might fuck you on the first night, or there may be a quicker way and a more accurate and effective way to thread the needle based on how you're reading her, based on how you're allowing her to show you who she is, seeing her for her insecurities, her guard, her wall, and just accepting her and the woman as she is, and understanding that to really be as effective and connect with her how she has to be, there may be barriers to that. There may be things in your way. So the patience is just a respect to the process, a respect to her, a respect to the game and the whole dance of seduction and connection in itself. And when you are impatient, it shows that you don't truly understand seduction. What else did I want to comment on? They only connect it with their own pleasure, never with yours. And the idea that you're so obsessed with your pleasure, I'm gonna get my rocks off as long as I'm enjoying it. I don't care if she's enjoying it or not. I don't care if she wants it. I don't care if she's turned on or intimate. You don't realize that if we're just talking about a relationship between a man and a woman, the higher a woman's desire, the more that she is teased and the more she wants it, the more you'll get out of her as a woman. So even being selfish, you're holding yourself back from a better experience because you'll only get a mediocre performance at best. You don't understand the depths that intimacy can get even outside of a sexual interaction. So I really like that it pointed that out for the first one. The next type we have is the suffocator. Let me make sure my door is on. Yeah. The suffocator. Suffocators fall in love with you before you even half aware of their existence. Before you are even half aware of their existence. The trait is deceptive. You might think they have found you overwhelming, but the fact is they suffer from an inner void. A deep well of need that cannot be filled. Never get involved with suffocators. They are almost impossible to free yourself from without trauma. Damn. They cling to you until you are forced to pull back, whereupon they smother you with guilt. We tend to idealize a loved one, but love takes time to develop. Recognize suffocators by how quickly they adore you. To be so admired may give a momentary boost to your ego, but deep inside you sense that their intense emotions are not related to anything you have done. I want to take a step back before I even run it. Matter of fact, I'm going to read the full thing. Trust these instincts. A subvariant of the suffocator is the doormat, a person who slavishly imitates you. Spot these types early on by seeing whether they are capable of having an idea of their own. An inability to disagree with you is a bad sign. Now, chat, thing I want to point out here. Remember, y'all know how I say a clingy woman that is a red flag if she's clingy too fast, right? This goes into that. Not only is this a quality of an anti-seducer, right? But it's not just that. It's deeper than that. If she is clingy fast and you're an insecure man who likes to have their ego stroked, you love it. She makes you feel good. So you're not even going to see the red flag for what it is in the long run. The danger in a person who is clingy too fast. Because you'll like how they make you feel. They make you feel good. They make you feel great. And it's not... And here we are seeing how you go wrong when you don't have a level of self-confidence, a level of knowing who you are. Because when somebody can come in and make you feel like something else, and you don't know who you are, that's dangerous. So on my end, I don't like it. I don't like it because I can see the red flag for what it is. But if you don't know why it's not a bad thing, or you can't see why it's bad, there probably is a bigger issue here which someone else can what? Come in your life and take advantage of that void that you're missing. That lack of self-awareness, that lack of sense of self, that lack of connection you have with the relationship within you. And they can fill that void and so dangerously manipulate you, so dangerously abuse you. And in fact, a lot of the times, here's why psychopaths and sociopaths are so good at manipulating people, because they can see flaws and insecurities quickly. And they fill them gaps. They attack them. They manipulate them. They use them. They even can play like a lamb, be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And they do it so well. And they play these strings in the person. So here you have the other side of that coin. Not just that anti-seduction is a red flag, or a clinginess is a red flag, but what happens when that clingy person is using that to their advantage on you? Let's keep going though. The moralizer. Seduction is a game and should be undertaken with a light heart. All is fair in love and seduction. Morality never enters the picture. The character of the moralizer, however, is rigid. These are people who follow fixed ideas and try to make you bend to their standards. They want to change you, to make you a better person. So they endlessly criticize and judge. They endlessly criticize and judge that is their pleasure in life. In truth, their moral ideas stem from their own unhappiness and mask their desire to dominate those around them. Their inability to adapt and to enjoy makes them easy to recognize. Their mental rigidity may also be accompanied by a physical stiffness. It is hard not to take their criticisms personally, so it is better to avoid their presence and their poisoned comments. Now, I want to be very critical and clear on this. Do not confuse this with a person who actually wants you to improve and change and be better in life. The difference is this person is coming from the approach of unhappiness, and they're very critical, they're very judgmental. Whereas though the other end of the spectrum is a person who accepts you for who you are, but also knows you could be better. That makes a comment in truth and honesty and just keeping it real rather than trying to judge you or criticize you. So for example, I told you I pride myself in death before dishonor, honesty, and keeping it real. So a lot of times I may tell a woman something that she can never hear from a guy who's trying to stroke her ego or just wants to fuck. Because I don't just want to fuck. And I don't need the pussy. So I'm able to talk to them in a way and be direct with them in a way that I'm honestly testing her. If she can't take honesty, then that would be a red flag for me. But on top of that, I have a genuine intention to improve anyone and anything that in any environment that I am in. So I push people, I encourage people, I nurture people in a certain way to be more in themselves. So I say that to say, when I do that or when I'm like that, it's not coming from a place of you're not perfect or you're not good enough. Because I may accept her as she is, and I don't judge. It is what it is. But here's the truth. Take with it what you will. My intention is what it is, and I communicate very effectively, and I'm very clear and direct. And if she can't handle that and she can't take that, it says a lot about her, not about me. No ego in that involved. No ego. I'm not trying to say, oh, she can't take me nitpicking, because like I said, it's a clear difference, and I wish I had an example in mind, because it's a clear difference between someone that's nitpicking and judging you and making you think you're not good enough, and there's someone who is telling you what you need to hear. So next one, chat. The tightwad. Sounds weird as hell. I'll move my phone. Vibrating on the desk. The tightwad. Cheapness signals more than a problem with money. It is a sign of something constricted in a person's character. I like that. I like that, chat. Cheapness signals more than a problem with money. It is a sign of something constricted in a person's character. Something that keeps them from letting go or taking a risk. It is the most anti-seductive trait of all, and you cannot allow yourself to give into it. Let me flip the page here, y'all. Fix mic. Is something wrong with my mic? Let me know, chat. Sound good to me? Sound good to me? Nah, you good? All right, appreciate it. Let me keep going, chat. Most tightwads do not realize they have a problem. They actually imagine that when they give someone some paltry crumb, they are being generous. Take a hard look at yourself. You are probably cheaper than you think. Try giving more freely of both your money and yourself, and you will see the seductive potential in selective generosity. Of course, you must keep your generosity under control. Giving too much can be a sign of desperation, as if you were trying to buy someone. I like this, chat. I wouldn't consider this the most anti-seductive trait of all, but it's very important when understanding the difference between this person is stingy and they're trying to, because even guys use that, they try to manipulate that. Oh, feed her crumbs, don't give her compliments, and feed her scraps, and try to do that, because in reality that's only going to work with women who are very insecure. That is only going to work with women who they need your validation, and you can weaponize that against them. That's the scenario, like that, weaponizing validation in her insecurity and her sense of self against her, and using that to make her like you, because now you're trying to use how much you can validate her for being the reason you can like her. This is a very small-minded game, and some people can play it and it will work. It will work on certain women. Let me go back to the page. Oh, I just ripped that one a little bit. But like I said, the real key thing here is that you have the other end of the spectrum. The guys who spam compliments. Like me because I'm giving you things. Like me because I have money. Like me because I'm tall. Like me because I'm famous, I'm rich, I got all this status. Like me for these things. And what they don't see is that you're trying to overqualify and over abuse your resources to get this person's approval or get them to like you. You're screaming for the most validation. You're deeply insecure, and you don't even like yourself. So because of these two ends of the spectrum, you can never transcend and get to the level where you can start to craft your seduction. And as the book points out and says, the seductive potential and selective generosity. Flirting without complimenting a woman. Because then when you do give a compliment, and that compliment has a meaning behind it. You see, for the guys that and one of my tips that said flirt without complimenting, the whole purpose of that initial statement was that you don't even realize that you can flirt without complimenting a woman. Not that don't give women compliments, don't give them to women, never give a woman a compliment. That wasn't the meaning behind the statement. It flew over your head. I would add into that it can be a compliment that you're even talking to her. It can even be a compliment that she's on a date with you. It can even be a compliment that she's spending time with you. So this whole idea that you're going to avoid compliments is a myth. The point was, and to expand on that, give her a compliment that only you can give her. When you say something to her that shows you pay attention to detail, that shows that you listen, that shows that you know her in a way that nobody else knows her. And again, I would clarify, this does not require being in a relationship with a woman. I can do this from one conversation in a woman. One conversation. And it only gets more effective and deeper the more that I know her, obviously, the more intimately that we get to know each other. But I'm just saying, I can do this in one conversation, or first conversation. I can pick up on something and make a comment and say something about her quickly. Because that's how good I am at this shit. That's how much I pay attention. That's how perceptive I am. That's how much I can, boom. And I say that to say, that's the selective generosity. So you may flirt with her and make her feel good without complimenting her. And then when you give a compliment, then when you make a comment or a compliment or make a statement, it has actual meaning and value behind it. That compliment is going to hit her soul so deep. She's going to know so many things about you as a man just from that compliment that you just gave her. Not, oh, you're beautiful. Oh, your booty is fat. Oh, this is that and blah, blah, blah. But you really thread the needle. You really hit her right in the spot where she needed to be hit. But let's keep going, chat. Let's keep going. The bumbler. Bumblers are self-conscious, and their self-consciousness heightens your own. At first, you may think they are thinking about you, and so much so that it makes them awkward. In fact, they're only thinking of themselves, worrying about how they look or about the consequences for them of their attempt to seduce you. Their worry is usually contagious. Soon you are worrying too, about yourself. Bumblers rarely reach the final stages of a seduction, but if they get that far, they bungle that too. In seduction, the key weapon is boldness, refusing the target the time to stop and think. Bumblers have no sense of timing. You might find it amusing to try and train or educate them, but if they are still bumblers past a certain age, the case is probably hopeless. They are incapable of getting outside themselves. So these are just people that are self-absorbed, and to me, their whole life is ran by this. So I think this is deeper than insecurity. I think it's just becoming used to living through your insecurities. Meanwhile, a simple case of insecurity might just be that you worry about how you look, but it doesn't really, you don't live through your insecurities, if that makes sense. But let's keep going. The windbag. The most effective seductions are driven by looks, indirect actions, physical lures. Words have a place, but too much talk will generally break the spell. Heightening surface differences and weighting things down. People who talk a lot most often talk about themselves. They've never acquired that inner voice that wonders, am I boring you? To be a windbag is to have a deep-rooted selfishness. Never interrupt or argue with these types that only fuels their windbaggery at all costs. Learn to control your own tongue. So these are the people that talk too much. They go on and on and on and on. They get boring. They don't understand how to be selective and powerful and intentional with what they're saying to you. Which is anti-seductive, because then they can kill the moment. They can do too much. They can overdo. Well, we just hit 44,000 followers on Twitch. Appreciate y'all, man. We've been grinding. We've been working long, hard years, man. What a blessing, man. Appreciate y'all, man. Dojo to the moon to Saturn. Then we leaving the solar system. Hey. Let's lock back in, chat. The reactor. Now, before I even read this, I can guess and predict just by Robert Greene's take on seduction. A lot of the things I agree with, not everything I agree with, not everything, you know. I already know what this one I'm gonna probably love. Let's get into it. The reactors. Because I said to a guy, we had a call. Chat, was it a call? I was talking to a guy on, I knew it was on camera or in a video, where I said that you're reacting. So if you're reacting, you can never be intentional. When did I say that, chat? No, it wasn't to melt. I always say it, but I'm just saying. I know I said it recently. Yesterday, I know I just said it recently, bro. I just made a whole point. I was like, yo, if you are the type of person to have reactions, you can't have intention. A reaction and intention are opposites. They're not really opposites. I'm just exaggerating, but yeah, let's get into it, chat. Reactors are far too sensitive. Not to you, but to their own egos. They comb your every word and actions for a sign of a slight to their vanity. If you strategically back off, as you sometimes must in seduction, they will brood and lash out at you. They are prone to whining and complaining, two very anti-seductive traits. Test them by telling a gentle joke or story at their expense. We should all be able to laugh at ourselves a little, but the reactor cannot. You can read the resentment in their eyes. Erase any reactive qualities in your own character. They unconsciously repel people. Here's why I knew I would like Robert Greene's take on it, because it really put a light on the more psychological edge of it, and getting into the fact that a reactor has multiple different qualities. They whine, they complain, they react, they're super reactive, they're super, like, I just think of like the fact that they don't mix well with others. It's almost like, I have a background in chemistry and biology and cellular molecular biology and things of that nature. And when you think of something very reactive, you can't mix it with a lot of things. You can't have it near other things. You must have it separate from other things. So even on a chemical level, things that are reactionary, you can use them, you can have purposes for them and on a chemical level, but in real life, things that react a lot and things that are very reactionary, you tend to keep them away from other things because they don't mix well. They don't do well in adaptable environments. And if you cannot adapt, you cannot truly be seductive, because people come in different forms and shapes and different selves. So to be able to acknowledge that and then be able to be intentional with yourself, not change for them, but to be able to be intentional with yourself, you go on some elite level of seduction. Let's keep going, chat. Let's keep going. They don't have poise. Yeah, that might be one thing that they definitely don't have poise. They definitely don't. They won't be able to be poised. The vulgarian. Vulgarian. Vulgarians are inattentive to the details. They are so important in seduction. You can see in their personal appearance. Hold on to that word. You can see in their personal appearance. Their clothes are tasteless by any standard, and in their actions, they do not know that it is sometimes better to control oneself and refuse to give in to one's impulses. Vulgarians will blab, saying anything in public. They have no sense of timing and are rarely in harmony with your tastes. Indiscretion is a sure sign of the vulgarian. Talking to others of your affair, for example. It may seem impulsive, but its real source is their radical selfishness. Their inability to see themselves as others see them. More than just avoiding, vulgarians, you must make yourself their opposite. Tact, style, and attention to detail are all basic requirements of a seducer. Now, we get to examples of the anti-seducer. Child, I think I want to stop right there for now. I want to stop right there for now until I get back into reading the book. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go to the end, the uses of an anti-seduction. And if you ask yourself why I'm stopping there, it's because we low-key skipped like 20 chapters. No, we ain't skipped like 20 chapters. We skipped like 3 or 4 types and then jumped to this out of my pure curiosity. So in order to just, when we come back and keep reading holistically, we'll come back and finish that part. So I'm gonna skip to this part, the uses of anti-seduction. Now keep in mind, this is a random PDF on Google. So I did not highlight these words. This is not due to my work. This is just a random PDF. Hold on, chat. Let me move it, fix it. All right. Uses of anti-seduction. The best way to avoid entanglements with anti-seducers is to recognize them right away and give them a wide berth. But they often deceive us. Involvements with these types are painful and hard to disengage from, because the more emotional response you show, the more engaged you seem to be. Do not get angry. That may only encourage them or exacerbate their anti-seductive tendencies. Instead, act distant and indifferent. Pay no attention to them. Make them feel how little they matter to you. Damn. The best antidote to an anti-seducer is often to be anti-seductive yourself. Cleopatra had a devastating effect on every man who crossed her path. Octavius, the future Emperor Augustus, and the man who would defeat and destroy Cleopatra's lover, Mark Antony, was well aware of her power and defended himself against it by being always extremely amiable with her. courteous to the extreme but never showing the slightest emotion, whether of interest or dislike. In other words, he treated her as if she were any other woman. Facing this front, she could not sink her hooks into him. W. Octavius, chat. He 1v1'd and clutched his shots. Octavius made anti-seduction his defense against the most irresistible woman in history. Man, his demon time level was so high. His power level was so high she couldn't do nothing with him. Mind you, she took down some great men, man. Alexander the Great, Mark Antony, or whatever. But she couldn't get Octavius. Let's keep going, chat. Remember, seduction is a game of attention, of slowly filling the other person's mind with your presence. Distance and inattention will create the opposite effect and can be used as a tactic when the need arises. Finally, if you really want to anti-seduce, simply feign the qualities listed at the beginning of the chapter. Nag, talk a lot, particularly about yourself. Dress against the other person's taste. Pay no attention to detail, suffocate, and so on. A word of warning. With the arguing type, the windbag, never talk back too much. Words will only fan the flames. Adopt the Queen Victoria strategy. Nod, seem to agree, then find an excuse to cut the conversation short. This is the only defense. And that, chat, is the end of the anti-seducer. Bada boom, bada bang. Now I give my personal take on that. The common thread between all people who are anti-seductive are anti-seducers in general and have a lot of anti-seductive qualities within them is that you're insecure, and insecurity has a lot of connected qualities such as being selfish, such as just having this overall egotistical way of seeing things. And the least seductive thing you can be is a me person, because a lot of times people don't like cocky, arrogant people for a reason, because they can never be the center of attention. They can never feel special in these people's presence. However, even with the other seductive types mentioned in the beginning of the chapters, these people aren't condescending. And in fact, they know they are being, expressing themselves in extreme manners, whether through their fashion, whether through their passion, or whatever they're using or expressing, however they're expressing themselves. This is different from being insecure and wanting to be on a pedestal, because even in being seductive and being fancy and special and having all these magical shows, if you read the other parts of the chapter or you paid attention so far, you understand what I'm talking about. It's not rooted in the idea of make me special, I am great. It's rooted in let me show you something that will show you how a passionate of a person I am. Let me show you a feature of who I am. And in doing so, I can connect with your passions. I can connect with who you are by showing you who I am. Here's the openness and vulnerability that plays a part in seduction. Because insecure people protect and hide and aren't able to express themselves holistically. They limit themselves. They hold back. They constrict their flow. They constrict their creativity because they're worried. They're full of shame, fear, doubt. So I'm hoping that you're seeing how all of these things kind of they really correlate and connect with each other. And it's really easy to see how certain qualities connect. But I know it can get kind of unclear when you look at, like I said, when you look at the idea that someone can be seductive by being a star. They can be seductive by being, self-centered. But it's not the same as being insecure and being greedy and being very scarce, having a very scarce mind. So chat, here's where I open up the questions, you know what I'm saying? Because people that will be watching this on YouTube can't ask questions, can't stop and be like, yo, what's going on? I mean, y'all can comment in the video thoughts that y'all have when you watch this on YouTube, but Twitch chat, let me know what y'all think. What y'all think about that chapter and ask the questions. How do you deal with that doubt? Very deep question. Very, very deep question. Look at a lot of my other content. Try to get one-on-one coaching from me, because for every person, each individual, that doubt comes from another place. It has a different origin. What's the book called again? The Art of Seduction. What doesn't Steve say? Me, I. So listen, me, I, and expressing and showing you who I am, versus, and see, this is where it gets kind of like confusing for like someone else who doesn't understand it. The me, I that comes from insecurity, and the me, I that comes from a place of power are totally different. Because the me, I that comes from insecurity, like I said, is connected in worry, doubt, limitations, constricting your own ability to express yourself, constricting your own ability to connect with that other person that you will be seducing. And what you're limiting yourself is in, think about this. So you know how Steve will go in deep in a lot of things. Let's say, and you don't know who I'm talking about. We're talking about the man mindset, Steve the Dean, right? But you make an interesting point there. The me, I that comes from passion and expression and openness is attractive to others, because then they go, why are you like this? Why? What else do you think about like that? What more is there to you? The me, I that is rooted in insecurity, it pushes people away, because the way it's expressed is in fear, and the statements come off as night and day. It's really hard to show you unless I can think of an example, unless I can bring up an example. But you ever been around somebody that's insecure? They can't, like, they're just hard to be around. They react a lot. They have no sense of self. They have no poise. They don't communicate in a way that involves you or makes you be seen in the conversation. And a me, I that comes from a place of power will allow an individual, even an individual who thinks about themselves or is me, I, and involve the other person in the situation in that. I am a deep man. I think deep. You may not have met a man like me, but let me show you something you've never seen before. Allow me in so I can connect with you, or allow you to touch a side of yourself another man or the world itself has not allowed you to touch or be. So here's me, I, but it's coming from a place of power, Chad. I hope that made sense. How does a reactor become a non-reactor? They have to get out of their defensive state of being, because they think as well as they defend themselves, as protected they will be, and as guarded they are, as the stronger they will be. All of this comes from a place of weakness and fake strength, or pseudo strength, or them pretending to be strong and what they tell themselves to sleep at night. Can you go from anti-seduction to seduction? Of course. It starts with that self-awareness, though. How do you know your flaws instead of attribution, meaning less things to be your flaws? That statement, that sentence, that question doesn't make sense. Reword that. What's the difference of nitpicking and judging versus accepting them and being authentic? I think you meant, what's the difference between nitpicking and judging and commenting or making a statement about the person, which comes from a place of accepting them and being authentic. The difference is, I'm not trying to play them. I'm not trying to make them feel bad about themselves. I'm not trying to make them feel ashamed of who they are or what they are and how they feel. In fact, I may validate or understand how they feel and still, like, I may understand them. The main difference is understanding. I may understand them and still be able to keep it real and say, that ain't it. Let's say we ain't got to make it a man to a woman. Let's say a man to a man. I'm talking to my homie. I'm like, yo, dog, you got anger issues. Listen, I understand why you're angry, wherever that place of anger is coming from. But I still can keep it real with him and say, yo, you got to fix that. You can't be doing that. So I think that's a good example. Y'all can let me know or not, but I think that was a good example of, like, when you can keep it real with someone but not, like, be judging them or nitpicking with them. Because the nitpicking, judging example of that would be, you get mad too much, you complain too much, you're always angry. Versus having a purpose with what I'm saying. How do you begin to love and accept yourself? That's, again, deep ass question. We get that one-on-one coaching, man. Tap into the Patreon. Because I wouldn't just be able to answer that on the fly of like, we already talking about something deep. And if I could get into a question like that, it would just deeply change the topic. And I'm mainly doing this of like a Q&A of like us, what we just finished. So what's the difference between a windbag and a seductive storyteller? I would, from my personal expertise, I would say intention and purpose. Because a windbag is just talking. And a seductive storyteller is talking with a purpose, talking with an intention of an impact they may have. Because I talk a lot, but I don't talk too much. It's a difference. Because what am I talking about and why am I saying it is the difference between a windbag going on and on and on and boring a woman to death, and me talking a lot but not boring a woman, or just like, this guy talks too much, he's oh my god. How do you know if something is anti-seductive or a unique quality of yourself? See, I like this question because never read this book until now. I didn't read that chapter till now, but your self-awareness will allow you to check your own anti-seductive qualities. Never read that chapter in my life, but still, even growing up, I still was able to know what was anti-seductive or not, whether or not I put that label on it. But this just comes from knowing people and knowing yourself. So that's where you start. What's the step after self-awareness to become more seductive? Watch my video on the pyramid of self-mastery. How are you able to talk a lot and be substance? I mean, then again, you gotta ask yourself, whoa, like, what are you thinking about or talking about that is meaningless, and why would you say it out loud, especially to somebody else? What is an example of being selfish but teasing her? Isn't teasing kind of being selfish itself, or what? Teasing is not being selfish when you're teasing. So you think, I like the connection you're trying to make. You're trying to say teasing is being selfish because it's holding something back or not giving something. But there's a difference between being selfish and intentionally making a person wait. See, selfish people are just being selfish because they're holding it to themselves. They're being greedy. They just have this me, insecure, everything's about me mentality. Whereas though I may be teasing her to actually turn her on more. I may be teasing her to be more intimate in the sexual interaction that we're having. I may be teasing her to enhance her arousal, the sexual tension, and her desire. So I'm actually doing it for her. So it's not even selfish. It's not even rooted in selfish, thought or intention. Would you say there's a little bit of anti-seducer in all of us? Fuck no. When you get to your master of seduction, when you are a master of seduction, we want to use this book. No, because everything you're doing, saying, and being and thinking is intentional in seduction, but not just to frame it on a small level of seduction. Because things, like I said, it's bigger than that. The whole interaction could be bigger than that. So when you start learning to really be consciousness and intentional, best example of flirting without complimenting, watch me talk to women. Go watch my other videos of me talking to women. Alright, so I'm gonna do like one more question. What does it mean when you can talk to women not giving you the invite to fuck, but you don't make the move or lose interest after? Are you talking about a woman losing interest when you don't make the move? Again, there's a huge difference between not making the move because you're scared and you don't know what to do, and not making the move because you're teasing her and you're playing along with it. Everything else will be consistent and match that. It won't just be, oh well, he didn't make the move that one time, that was weird. The difference is night and day, because guess what? This is why ultimately, the whole fake it till you make it and pretend doesn't work, because you can get one thing right, but overall you're consistent. Everything else is going to expose you, or everything else will really show who you really are. Whereas though one end, let's say you don't make the move, or everything else consistent, it's gonna be. Listen, that's the way you framed that was pretty weird, but I get what you're saying. All right, chat. I think that's where I'm in the video though. Everyday lives outside the game. Game is bigger than your interactions with women. Your game and getting woman is a side effect of your game. Game is not about women. But listen, DOJO to the moon to Saturn. Do we leave in the solar system? The lymphs won't even know we exist. Keep sending the Dooney demons to Dooney land in the back of the Dooney van. Straight